What's up guys, this is Teddy. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This video we're going to be talking about if and else statements in C#. So if else statements are kind of one of those things that have crossed over into popular culture, and I think it's a lot of it has to do with memes and programmer culture. Like I think just so many people have tried to learn to code, and there's more software developers now that most people know what an if else statement is. An if-else statement is going to control your program to go one way or the other way. So let's just say we're executing down here. We're going to execute, if you've ever assigned like a variable. So we have variable test equal to 0. Variable test 2 or 3 is equal to 3. And it's going to execute sequentially. But with if-else statements, we don't want the part to execute in our code. So test is equal to 0. And in that case, our code would execute. And if it doesn't, let me see here. So in this case, very simple example, this part is executed. Very simple. So as it's executing, it's going down. It's just going to go down, and then it's going to say, is test equal to 0? And then it's going to, if it is, it's going to actually go inside of it. But let's say test is equal to 1. Is test equal, like, talking crazy, 1? Test, okay, and if test is not equal to 1, it's not going to execute it. It's just going to exit out of it. Or we have an else. Else is literally an if statement's way of just saying, like, I don't know what you want, man. So if I can't find what you want, I'm just going to do an else, and I don't know. I'm just gonna say I don't know what you want, but I ran. Okay, yeah, so gonna go down, and if we didn't have this if-else statement, all of the code would execute. Like if this wasn't here, this would just execute, and you need your program, you don't want all of your code to be executing. You want certain, code to execute at certain times, and you want certain code to execute at certain times, and that's just how things are. That's how things are in life. And then you also have for loops in which you can, do certain actions certain number of times. So if you want to do something 10 times, or maybe if you want to check for something 10 times, you do that. But other than that, we really can't do anything else in programming. So a very fundamental concept, but relatively easy to understand. Like there's not, it's not like some super complicated thing. The only way that it can get complicated is if you have a lot of logic, which we're about to get into. So fasten your seatbelt, because this is going to be very logic heavy. Somebody asked me one time, do you do a lot of math in your programming career? You're not going to be doing any math. What you're going to be doing is you're going to be doing logic all day. And sometimes this logic becomes so nested and becomes so just mind-boggling that it's honestly, it'll just make your head go in loops. So if I haven't scared you out of a programming career yet, then I probably just did, but I'm just kidding. So this one, the first thing you need to know before you can do any type of complicated if statements is you need to learn what condition statements are. So 5 is equal to 5. What do you think that that's going to evaluate to? That is going to evaluate to true. And this is actually, this isn't going to put like a number in here. This is actually just going to take this and it's going to put that in there. So very important concept to understand. There's a bool is going to be, that's the reason I put this right here. That's the reason I had the bool is right here, is because we're putting a bool inside of here. So just realize that it's not putting a number in there, it's putting a boolean, whatever you want to call it. So, oh, I'm sorry. This one is actually is equal. Not equal, which is kind of a tricky, like I said, these logic checks are going to be probably very confusing to you at first, but well, like I said. So what do you think that this one's going to evaluate to? This one's going to actually evaluate to true. What this means is that if this is not equal to 1, if it is not equal to 1, then it is true. If we were to put this like this, that would be true. But we don't want that. We want to check if it's not true. And I'll show you why that's kind of important later on. But for right now, let's not get too carried away because I don't want to confuse the new people. So that one is not equal. Those are the only two. Those are probably going to be the most common. If anything, I would probably put more of your effort into remembering those. So, but we can't. You're going to have to remember all these other ones because you are going to see these a lot too, which looks like your math class. Does this bring back fear? Does this trigger any type of negative emotions in you like it does me because I'm terrible at math? All right, next one. Less than is 5 smaller than, so we'll have 5 smaller than 6, which 5 is smaller than 6. So what is this one going to be? The alligator eats the bigger number. So if the alligator is pointing towards the bigger number, if the alligator mouth, like think of this as like an alligator mouth, if it's pointing towards the bigger number and it's correct, if it's logically correct, 5 is bigger than 2, then it's true. Same goes the other way. The alligator mouth is pointing towards the bigger number. It's going towards the 6. Is 6 greater than 1? Yes, that is true. And you also have these equals too, so you're going to see the equal part as well too. But I'm not going to be lazy. I'm going to actually put it down there for you. So we'll be very concise. So greater than equal five is greater than or equal to 5. So they can actually be equal. Just to demonstrate, less than equal. So 5 is less than or equals, and it actually, yep, I think the IntelliSense is right. Yep. Let's just change these numbers here just for learning's sake. So the next thing we have is we have an and or operator. These two, this up here is very important. This is kind of important. You will see these every once in a while. You definitely still want to remember them. So these are, once again, these are going to evaluate to true. And ors are very important as well too. So bool or yeah, we will do and let's do, so do and is equal to 5. So with this one, with the and it has a double ampersand. So 3 is not equal to 7. So what do you think that this one is going to evaluate to? 5 is true. So just split them apart. Like if you ever get confused about it, just look at them separately, and you just get really, sometimes I can get really messed up, but if it's not true, it's true. Just remember that. Not true, true. Just negate it. So 5 is equal to 5 is true. 3 is not equal to 7 is true. And so if they're both with and, they both have to be true. So this one is going to be true. With bool or it's, once again, it's the total opposite. So with not the total opposite, only one of them has to be true. So 5 is equal to 5 and 3 is equal to 7, and that should still, sorry, that is it, double pipe. That is equal to true. So we have all of our condition statements lined up. let's just go ahead and kind of put them into an if statement and see how they actually perform. So if bool is equal, that's going to be our first one up there. Let's just go ahead and toss it in there. It's going to evaluate to true. And actually, just kind of for learning's sake, how about we don't put the variable in there, and let's just go ahead and put like the raw actual numbers. If you were working, you would probably put the variable in there, but just for kind of learning's sake, let's go ahead and just evaluate this one. So 5 is equal to 5, and we'll just kind of step through these and make each if statement a little bit more confusing. So I'm just going to try and just gradually make it more confusing, and hopefully, you know, it'll help solidify the knowledge. So let's just see what happens. Let's also check our values up here. Let's just see what happens when we run through this. So true. We're going to go down and assign. If you don't know how the debugger works, what you do is you go up here to this top button and you go to step over. You can also press F10 if you like, but I just go up there and click. So true. Let's make sure all these are evaluating to true. Yes, all these are true. So in theory, you don't have to have an else with your if-else statement. You can just have just one tiny if you want to. And this is really useful if you need to check something and you just want to do one check and you just need to check for that one thing. So maybe you're checking for like a specific error and you just have that in there and it just says check for this specific error, and if this specific error happens, you know, exit out of the program. But in this case, we evaluate to true. Watch what happens watch what it does. So it goes up here, it evaluates, and boom, it's within. We're gonna go deep, guys. So what do brackets really mean in programming? Brackets are a symbol, or they're a symbol of many things, but really what they are scope. So once this executes, it's pretty much the program's way of saying, you know, scope. And in C# development, if you declare a variable inside of an if statement, the rest of your program can't see it. So once it evaluates to true, it's almost like it's evaluating like its own little program in itself. It's not really its own program, it's its own scope. So you have method level scope. I think there's class level scope. And then you have statement level scope like you have here. So keep in mind that like it's going to evaluate it, and it's actually going to go inside these braces and start executing within its own scope. So that's exactly what happened there. It evaluated to true. It's very simple, but we're going to keep going. We're going to make it a little bit more confusing because we really need to grasp it. So if, then we're going to go here. We're going to make this one not true because we want it to keep looking, and we want it to keep executing. So 3 is equal to 3 right here. Then we're going to have an else console. We'll go console right dot right line else if true. Make sure you got to put that semicolon there. If true, console dot right line else true. And save it. Go ahead, and we don't need to execute all that up there. So let's just go to our line right above it. Yep. It's probably not going to let us because there's no variable there. So we have to go ahead and put the red dot on a variable. Put it right there, run it, make sure that debug by default is on so you can actually see this. We'll just close out of that for right now. Go down. We actually had that separate. Let me close out that debugger. So we go down. We've already declared all our variables. 5 did not equal. I'm sorry. Let's rerun that. So go down, our program goes to the very first if statement. It's going to check it. Is 5 equal to 2? No. So it does not execute. Key point there, remember that. If it does execute, it's going to go within those brackets, within its own context, it's going to execute and actually start running our code right here. Key point too, notice how it's all stepping down, and really just the whole point of it is to make sure that certain parts of your code aren't executing. I think that's a better way to think about actual if statements than kind of like the conventional, just very logic-y way of thinking about it. I don't know, it just seems to make more sense to me. Maybe not, but that's just kind of the way I perceive it. So right here, 3 is equal to 3 does evaluate to true. Voila. We have our program running. So let's go here, else if 3 is equal, we'll purposely make this false. Go ahead, run it, see what happens. I'm sure that you can kind of already guess. 3 is not equal to 2, so it's going to go down one more. It's going to go to that else, and it's going to execute. Another key point, you can only have, for one if-else statement block, you can have as many if statements as you want to, but for an if-else chain, you can have one if, and you can have one else. You can have the front part of the train, you can have a caboose, like the back part of the train, but you can have as many middle parts of the train as you want to. So in this case, 2 is equal to 2. We could go back down here, console dot write line, else if 2 is true. And I'm not going to run that because you guys I trust that you already kind of know what's going on. It's not really that groundbreaking. So another topic that oftentimes comes up in programming in general is, how do you make this look better? Like, this is a bunch of lines of code. It's kind of ugly. Let me just show you. That's a lot of code for just something as simple as just an if-else statement. So nowadays what we have is what's called a ternary operator. And a ternary operator is pretty much the if statement, or oftentimes it's called an inline conditional. And think about an inline conditional as this. So var inline condition is equal to, let's see, 3 is greater than 2. Then we have 10 is equal to 5. What in the hell is that? All right. The middle part, let's just get rid of this right here. That's probably confusing people. So the question mark is going to be almost like the else statement. So if this evaluates to true, if this is true, return first number on the other side of the question. So if this is true, is 3 greater than 2? Yes, 3 is greater than 2, so that's going to evaluate to true. And if it evaluates to true, take this number right here. Very first number. If this is true, if this comes out to true, and I'll just kind of type that. If this is true, take the first number, take true. And this isn't actually syntactically valid. Like, I'm just doing this just to kind of, drive home the point. So if this is true, take this one. If this is false, take this one. I hope that and so let's just go ahead, go back 3 is greater than 2, 10 is equal to 5, and let's go ahead and let's put a var, and I'm going to tell you guys what a var is so you don't get confused. Let's name it something better than number. That's terrible. All right, inline statement, ternary, or sometimes called a ternary. Let me just put that up here just for safe measure. Inline or ternary operator. Sometimes called an operator, sometimes called a statement. You'll see them called inline in C#, and they're called ternary operators in JavaScript. You will see these exact same things in JavaScript, so probably wise because you can learn them here and then they'll carry over into JavaScript. That's what happened to me. I learned them in JavaScript and they just kind of carried over into C#. So 3 is equal to 2, evaluates to true. This is going to evaluate to an int. So what's really going on here? What is going on? I'm having issues. What is really going on here is that when you hit that green button, when you have a var, this is going to drive me crazy. So when you have a var and you hit that green button, C#'s compiler is going to look at this right here, and then it's going to convert it to an int at compile time. So it's pretty much like we put an int there, but we just put a var, and that's what our way of saying implicitly the compiler is going to do it. So I'm just going to say, hey, like, I don't even know what this is. You worry about it. You convert it to an int at compile time, and we will be happy. But it's the exact same thing as this. And many times many people will tell you that it's a code smell. I don't think var is a code smell. I think it's like a perfectly fine, way to actually evaluate something. And if you just want to be lazy and put a var there, I've never had anybody tell me not to use var in a production environment. So I think you'll be good to go. Some people will argue about that. By the way, if you want to argue about var, make sure to do so down in the comments because I love heated programming discussions. Shows passion. So 3, this is going to evaluate to true, and if it evaluates to true, it's going to go to the first number. And let's just do var inline statement 2. I'm just going to call it inline statement 2. Not the best naming convention, but for these circumstances, we're just going to do that. And the IntelliSense just automatically made us a ternary operator. Pretty cool. So 4 is equal to 2 is going to evaluate to true, so we will get 5. Last one, let's just do a false one just for good measure. Var inline statement false. And then 4 or 2 is equal to 1, which evaluates to false, and then 0, and then 1. And that's exactly how you do an inline false statement. And then we'll go ahead and just log out console. Go ahead and log one out just to take a look at it. And inline statement. Not getting IntelliSense for some reason. There we go. Go to here. Click right here in the side where our red button is. We're going to go ahead and run it. Make sure that debugging is on by default. Go down through here. Let's take a look in here. So this evaluates to 10. That's how, so we're going through here. We evaluate. It does evaluate to true. If it's true, take the first number. If it's false, take the last number. So this evaluates to true. That's why we get 10. This one, 4 is definitely greater than 2. So that one is going to evaluate to 5. Yep. And then this one, inline statement is false. 2 is not equal to 1. This evaluates to false. Says here, I'm going to take the second number because that evaluates to false. And we have 1. And then we're going to go ahead and execute out. And pretty much we are good to go after that. That is all you need to know about if-else statements. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I don't have any extra courses on this. I think if you just take a couple YouTube courses, it's going to be really easy for you. And a lot of this, if there's anything even more confusing about it, you'll probably be able to just pick it up intuitively. Like, if statements are really that easy, I'm not going to assign homework to you guys. Anyway, hope that you guys enjoyed this. If you did, make sure to hit that like button, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and as always, thank you for watching.